Good morning, everybody. I have an important message to share. Yeah, I got so many things in my head, and I got to get the videos out one by one, right? Today is about interpretation of the story in Genesis in Eden, the paradise where Adam and Eve have been cast out. Yes, cast out of paradise. And this is an elemental um, experience that all human beings can relate to. Somehow, the feeling to empathize with the feeling of Adam and Eve. And why this is, I will reveal to you my interpretation. But first, let's shallowly dive into another interpretation from Jordan Peterson, a controversial person that is, excuse me, worshipped and adored by certain people as a savior himself. And surely he empowers a lot of people, but still, he is a human being and again, controversial. But who is not? His interpretation, you can find it on YouTube. It's a good, entertaining video, highly intellectual, so to say. Um, and yeah, I believe more cognitive interpretation because I am that intuitive introvert that kind of lets his emotional intelligence or the, kind of, it's more like visions that I get about interpretations. It's not that much of cognition, whatever. And his interpretation, Jordan Peterson's, was basically, now spoiler alert, but I think, yeah, if you want to watch his video without being spoiled what his essence is, just skip the next minutes of my video or something. Anyway, his interpretation is basically that the sin of Eve was that she let the snake come into paradise, and the sin of Adam was that he did not stand up for his sin like a masculine person should, but blamed it on Eve and said, "Oh, she said this to me, and this is why I did it." He did not say, "Lord, I made a mistake." He did not take it on himself. So, and I like this interpretation. It makes a lot of sense. I myself have experienced that the feminine spirit, and I'm not talking about genders now, okay? So the feminine spirit can be in a man as well. So it's not bound to genders. I'm really afraid of gender discussion. I'm not ready for this. People then always tell me how bad and how sexistic I am, which I don't believe is true, but somehow I'm not ready for this anyway. See, I have seen the feminine spirit being fascinated by the by the devil or by craftiness or by um, subtle domination, control, and manipulation. In other ways, I have seen how the feminine spirit can be fascinated by controlling or by thinking it controls another rather evil force and lets it come into paradise, and by this destroying paradise. I have seen this, I've witnessed this, so it makes a lot of sense. And I think you also can relate to that the feminine spirit is often fascinated by the danger. How much danger can it control? Can it control the danger? Is the danger controlling? This ambivalence, but yet this is everywhere in society. We see that people in general are fascinated by fear, danger, and evilness. But I don't want to go into this topic here too deep. And I recommend to you to not put your focus too much on this frequency. No, my interpretation of this story of Adam and Eve being cast out of Eden is different. And it's not in competition with Jordan Peterson's. Both are valid interpretations, I believe. So my one is that it is a parable, a metaphor for being born. So God, the Lord, said, when you eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you will die. And death means being newborn. So this is what I say. Dying means being born. In order to be born again, you must be born again in the spirit. This is what Jesus said, and in other words, you need to die and then be born again. And Jesus did it too. He died to be born again. And the snake said to Eve, oh, no, you're not going to die. You will be born again, she said. So in other words, God said you will die, and the snake said, no, you will not die. You will be like God. You will be reborn as a God, so to say. And both are right. It's both the same thing. And also Adam and Eve are living, as long as they are in Eden, they are not living in the world that God created. God created the world, but he created the secluded garden of Eden. It's a garden. It's not the world. It's not the wilderness. There are, and in this place, Adam and Eve are living in an infantile state of being protected. Everything is good. Everything is perfect. They don't have to take care of the same things we have to take care in our lives today, So it's an infantile, ideal state, the same as when you are in your mother's womb or in the early childhood. And the tree of life, by the way, can be seen as this part, and in English I don't know the name for it, that supplies the child with food as long as they are in their mother's womb. This is the tree of life. Or the mother itself is the tree of life. Also, you are surrounded by water when you are there, and there is also this important river flowing through Eden, and then being split into these 4 other rivers. One of them is Euphrates, and there are the other ones, So it is, in my opinion, it can be a metaphor of being born. And being born then means to know about good and evil. And the punishment of God for Adam is that he will all his life eat from this fruit that he was forbidden to eat from. And now the punishment is he has to eat on from it. So, which means we have to eat from the fruit of knowledge of good and evil all our life, which means it's a process. We will be confronted with the question and the knowledge and the experience of good and evil for all our lives. It also means that life experience is an experience of individuation, which means by being born, it means we are cast out of paradise, and that there is not God anymore. When we are children, we think our parents are gods, but that is not true. But it is a healthy trick of life. This idealization from children to parents is important and healthy. We don't go to a 3-year old child, and once it starts speaking and understanding language, the first thing we tell them is, hey, I'm just a normal person. I'm not special. I'm not your God. No, I'm just a. So it's important that they idealize us for a time, but it's also important that until adulthood, they more and more individuate and carefully learn that their parents are human beings too, and that they have to, the godhood of the parents has to be transferred to the children so that the children can be independent and stand up for themselves. And the same applies for us when we are born into this world. We have to understand that God is not there anymore caring for us, but slowly we have to understand this. He is not in this world and doing the things for us. God is an impersonal energy. And we have to learn that his godhood, that before we were born, God was there for us. He did everything for us. But when we are born, this godhood must be transferred to us, which means we need a connection to God. So I want you to imagine that you still have this connection from Bauch, from your, I don't know the English word again, from your belly button, right? That belly button, to God, to spirit, to source. It is still there. You have a connection when you're on the high frequency, all right? And the devil tries to cut it by making you focus on negative things, on things that makes you anxious, feel small, and left alone, and so on. But I want you to imagine that you have this connection. And by this connection, the godhood, the potency of God, the ability, the authority is being transferred to you, but it's a part where you have to be active, receptive, and work on yourself. So in my interpretation, it is a metaphor, a story, the casting out of paradise. It means that life is a story of empowerment and understanding what Bob Marley sings when he sings. Some people think great God will come from the sky, take away everything and make everybody feel high. But when you know what life is worth, you look for yours on earth. So now you see the light. Just stand up for your right. It means you need to take care of yourself for these things. So when you pray to God, that's important. But you need to be receptive for the right moment to create, to be an agent for God. You need to work for God by working for yourself. And it's some trick, You pray for things to happen, then you wait for the right moment, and then God will use you to make the things happen for yourself. God will help you, will empower you, will give his godhood to you. So it does not help to only pray. It does not help to only be on a high frequency. It does not help to only be a good person. And, Israel means we who struggle with God. And this exactly means to eat from the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil every day. Because we always learn new deceptions, new ways of the devil, new interpretations of morality, what is right, what is not right. And this means wrestling with God itself. And to apply the knowledge we get is a constant process of empowerment. All right? So the essence of my interpretation is that we all coming from a state of wholeness where we have been supplied with everything we need. But this is not the real world. And once we are born in the world, we are cast out of this paradise. And we have to be empowered by wrestling with God, by eating from the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil every day, by individuating from this state where we thought God is there for us, and in the process becoming our own gods God, through the connection to God. So I want you to imagine that you have this connection, but at the same time, I want you that you understand that you have to stand up for yourself. God is not doing any, He will not move a finger for you. You have to move that finger for yourself. But God can help you to do this. And I also want you to not feel guilty in any way or ashamed. Okay? So you can think of both interpretations. Both are valid. Both do not exclude each other. The interpretation of Jordan Peterson is interesting. So the sin of Eve was to let the snake come into that protected frame where the infantile, protected, perfect paradise could live, but she let the snake in because it's fascinating. And this led to destruction of paradise, of the garden, or they have been cast out of this garden, okay? And the sin of Adam was to not take full responsibility of what he did. He said, oh, it was Eve, and Eve could say, oh, it was the snake. So we can learn from this too. What it means to be on the right way, on the right track, means to not blame on others, take full responsibility for what you do. And this is a transaction to my interpretation, or a connection to my interpretation, where I say is an internal psychic conscious process of growth. Take full responsibility, don't blame others, and individuate from this split with God to become your own God, but not in a self-absorbed, narcissistic way, of course. That being said, I hope you enjoyed my message today. See you in the next video. Over and out.